Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, the biggest assault on the judiciary is being plotted by the Congress-led opposition. 71 MPs, 7 of who have retired since March 27th, when this operation really began, have come together to move an impeachment motion against the Chief Justice of India. Before I debate the most explosive political development of the day, here are the top headlines this Friday evening. For the first time ever in the history of India, Congress and the lobby chalk out mega bid to impeach the Chief Justice of India. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley launches a frontal attack on the Congress, tags the motion as a revenge weapon to target the centre. The impeachment move exposes dissent within the Congress. 5-party Loya netas and former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh oppose the motion. After opposition submits the motion, Rajya Sabha Chairman Venkaiah Naidu now explores legal options to give the order after consultations.
You're watching the News Hour at 9.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the impeachment tamasha takes shape, the move has drawn severe criticism from all quarters. While Congress itself is a divided house, several jurists have questioned the haste shown by the opposition. Before I get into the debate mode, I would like to look at the arguments from both sides. While the pro-motion gang underlined alleged misbehavior and impropriety of the Chief Justice of India as the common thread to move the motion, the critics have questioned the frivolity of the entire matter, calling it a motion devoid of facts. Congress also citing the alleged abuse of power when it comes to appointing benches for high-profile cases, while many learned members of the judiciary calling the move a blow to the spirit of congeniality in the courts. While Kapil Sibal and company claim the move is aimed at preserving the sanctity of the judiciary, the argument blows in their own face when their own esteemed party colleagues have openly expressed their unwillingness to be a part of this exercise. Which brings me to my legitimate question tonight. Is the impeachment motion moved by the opposition politically motivated? That's also the poll question on the News Hour tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, pick up your phones and iPads and vote. What do you think? Is this a political move, or is this a move to restore what they say credibility in the judiciary? That's the big debate. And joining me this evening, the big legal luminary Harish Salve, former Solicitor General and somebody whose views are regarded as seriously in political circles as they are in legal circles, and of course the judiciary as well. Good evening, Mr. Harish Salve, and thank you very much for joining me on the News Hour tonight. Mr. Harish Salve, you've been rather quiet all day. We've been trying to get you to speak on this big crisis in the judiciary. Do you think, Mr. Harish Salve, this entire process, which began on March 27th, when the first meeting for getting the impeachment process off the ground and signature campaign started on March 27th, seemed to have been abandoned for a while, came up within 24 hours of the Judge Loya verdict that came from the Supreme Court? Do you think this has its roots in the Judge Loya verdict?
Navika, a few things. First of all, you're right, you've been trying to get me to say something, and it's with great hesitation and after a lot of pushing from you that I've come onto your channel. I haven't gone to any other channel. The reason is, for us, it's something very painful. We were young college students when the Keswanand Bharti verdict came, and the then party in power, and you know whom I'm talking about, superseded 3 of the senior most judges because they decided the case one way. But they didn't hide their motive. They said we are superseding because these judges are not in sync with the thought process of the government in power. And my late guru, Mr. Palkhiwala, wrote a small book on this, and its name was A Judiciary Made to Measure. For me, this is déjà vu. The second thing we must remember is democratic institutions are extremely fragile, extremely fragile. In fact, democracy itself is a very fragile virtue. Parliament and the Supreme Court, the two pillars of the Constitution, the judiciary and the legislature, primarily derive power from public opinion and public faith. And therefore, it is not enough that you do the right thing. It is extremely important that you do it the right way. And while I am personally thoroughly unconvinced about the nature of the allegations, but giving the benefit of doubt, which I don't, if the allegations are serious, the way it has been done is clearly wrong. Today, is there any doubt that the common person will feel that because the judgment has gone differently in the case yesterday, this has been a reaction? So that's why I say it is once again the same question mark. Is it a judiciary made to measure? See the damage you are inflicting, first of all, on public faith in the institution. People will feel that judges now must kowtow to the government, because who knows, if on a serious matter they go against the government, they have a price to pay. Tomorrow, if the Aadhaar card is upheld, good. But will somebody say that, well, the judges were scared, Aadhaar is such a favorite project of the government, they didn't want to risk it? So you would have eroded the credibility of the court. The second is, this was an accident waiting to happen, and let me tell you why. The Constitution makers were dreamers. They dreamed of a beautiful democracy. They dreamed of leaders who would rise above themselves when they entered the portals of Parliament. And that is why they thought that the executive will appoint judges and they will appoint the best. And that's why they thought that we are providing such a strong measure of irremovability by saying that MPs must remove judges by a very complex process. Look at when the Judges Inquiries Act was framed. They said 50 MPs must come together. 50 wise men must come together for Rajya Sabha. I don't think that when the law was enacted, anybody thought that one day politics will all be about numbers. And today it's about numbers. I'm sorry to say. That's my feeling as a lawyer. So today is a very, if I may say so, a very questionable day for Indian democracy. Because believe me, the impeachment motion may or may not survive. The Vice President, who's in an unenviable position of deciding this, will have to take a call. If he puts it before Parliament, in the meanwhile, the poor judge's reputation is devastated. If he doesn't put it before Parliament, the allegations obviously will be against the Vice President, saying he has been partisan. And let me tell you, this will be taken, if the Vice President says no, this will be taken to the Supreme Court. And they will say the Chief Justice has to recuse himself, some other bench must hear it, and so on. So the damage which you will cause to the institution is irreparable. And I wish we had, in good time, created a proper law for judicial accountability, where this would have been an institutional process rather than a number counting process. The judges that time said, why should we agree to an accountability institution? I think today, in hindsight, perhaps even they may be feeling that it is safer to have a public function institution than be subject to merely the number counting. So this damage is irreparable. And finally, I must say,
Mr. Salve,
those 4 judges came out and gave a press conference, expressed their anguish. I think it was too tempting for the politicians not to try and fish in troubled waters.
so you're saying the genesis of this political misadventure, if you can call it that, lies in the fact that it was the judges first, the 4 of them, who came out in the public domain and held that press conference?
No. It is those judges acted. I have never faulted them for what they did. It was something unusual. It should have been resolved institutionally. They acted out of an emotion, a feeling, a sense of responsibility. That is the time where the political system had to rise above partisan politics and not fish in troubled waters. We all have lip service to how keen we are on having a powerful, independent Supreme Court. Deliver on those promises, deliver on those words. When it comes to delivery, the short-term gains are far more exciting and far more promising than long-term support.
But Mr. Salve, you haven't commented on the fact that this signature process for putting up this motion together started on the 27th of March, after which it seemed like it had gone on the back burner. For 3 weeks there was no action, and today it once again came back in front and it was submitted to the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Do you think the fact that it was moved today, 24 hours after the Judge Loya case verdict, it is politically motivated?
That's what I said, Navika. It is not enough that you do the right thing. I don't agree this is the right thing. It is not enough that you do the right thing, but in politics and in governance, you must do it the right way. Is there any doubt in anybody's, in a common man's mind, that this is retaliation? Are you not conveying that impression that this is retaliation? And that these charges were perfectly all right? A judgment going a particular way suddenly wakes you up. And by the way, this case is one of the elements in the impeachment. Now look at the far-reaching import. If the way a judge handles a case becomes an element in an impeachment process, you have ruptured the protection, the shell which the Constitution creates around the judiciary to give it impartiality and strength.
Mr. Salve, now the fact is both, the leader of opposition today, Ghulam Nabi Azad, and the former law minister, Mr. Kapil Sibal, came out and said that there is no reason to doubt that this was born out of the Judge Loya case. The fact is that this process of getting signatures was during the parliament session, and they had sought time with the chairman of Rajya Sabha 1 week ago. Do you buy that argument that this is not politically motivated?
Well, Navika, I think you're better equipped to comment on that. But the way this case was fought, what is said by the Supreme Court in its judgment, and if the leader of the opposition, I didn't know this, if the leader of the opposition and Mr. Sibal have openly accepted that this was triggered by the judgment, I think 2 and 2 necessarily would make 4. And you read it correctly.
Mr. Salve, the question now is what happens from here on? What happens? Does the Chief Justice of India function as business as usual? How do people in the country, not just us living in Delhi who see the Supreme Court every day, but people who come from Mofussil towns, who have their cases pending before the apex court here, who probably have to employ very, very expensive lawyers, to fight their cases in the Supreme Court of India? How do they view the entire process of the delivery of justice in the apex court?
See, you have raised a question which prompts me to say, this is a race downhill now. The damage has been done. The Vice Chairman will consider it. If he admits the motion, an inquiry has to be appointed. Obviously, the Chief Justice's position then becomes untenable. If he doesn't admit the motion, I can almost forecast what the next step will be. I'm sure there is already a first working draft of a writ petition making allegations against the Vice President and challenging his decision not to admit the motion. Very obviously, they will make the Chief Justice a party respondent to this petition and then say he should not hear the case. And if the Supreme Court as much as issues notice in the case, then they will say till this case is pending, it's obvious that he cannot be allowed to function. Now, what should he do? The answer is, I don't know. The situation is unprecedented. I mean, we wished such a situation would never have a precedent, but the situation is unprecedented. We only have had one occasion where Justice Mukherjee appointed an inquiry into, after the motion was admitted, into Justice, one of our judges who was in the Supreme Court, and Justice Ramaswamy, Mr. Sibal challenged it incidentally in court. It failed, and after which work was withdrawn, but then that was at the stage of the inquiry. We are far away from that, but I don't know. And honestly, you're asking me a question. I say I've only been 40 years in the profession. I'm too young to give you an answer, because I don't think anybody has an answer to this. Everybody will have a view on this. This is unprecedented.
Mr. Salve, you spoke about the pending
one
cases.
One thing is clear, no litigant can come with the same faith in this institution. They can't till this issue is resolved.
Well said, well said. Mr. Salve, you spoke about pending cases in the Supreme Court and you mentioned Aadhaar. May I mention to you another case that is pending before the Supreme Court, which is the Ram Mandir case, which is the most politically volatile case that is pending in the Supreme Court. And that probably is the basis of this political move, many say. I ask you this question: can this political move be born out of the fact that it is the Ram Janmabhoomi, the Ram Mandir verdict, which can decide future governments, many say, which can decide the course of future politics in this country, which could be the reason why we are seeing such a move by the opposition party?
Navika, I don't know politics, I don't understand politics, I'm naive in these matters, but what I can tell you is I have read the allegations against the Chief Justice, and in my opinion, they lack credibility. So I don't think they are serious enough to warrant an action of this kind. Now, if they are not serious enough to warrant an action of this kind, but it has been taken by eminent people, then we have to find reasons elsewhere. In which case, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, your guess is far more informed because you're in the thick of it. My guess is like a lay Indian. I can find 10 reasons why they must have done it, or maybe all the 10 reasons why they've done it.
Well, before I let you go, one small question. Do you see you may not be into politics or may stay away from dabbling in politics, but do you see the fact that several senior political, eminent legal people in the politics field in Congress party have not been signatories to this impeachment move? That includes people like former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, people like Salman Khurshid, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, people like former Law Minister Moily. Do you think this gives away that there is a section even within the Congress that thinks this move may be ill-advised?
Well, Navika, you with your resources will find out whether they have actually stayed away, or whether I saw in one of your news clips somewhere Mr. Sibal saying they asked these people not to sign for certain reasons. Maybe I still live in Alice in Wonderland. I would like to believe that a person like Dr. Manmohan Singh would never be party to this. I may have had my reservations about some of his actions as Prime Minister, but on a personal level I respect him hugely. And It warms my heart to know that there is a chance he may not be a party to this. It warms my heart to know that my friends like Salman, like Manu, have said, sorry, this crosses the line. We are not going to do this. I hope you are right that they have refused to sign and not that they, for strategic reasons, have been kept out.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, Mr. Harish Salve, for joining me on the News Hour. Will we be seeing you very shortly advising the chairman of Rajya Sabha, because he says he's going to be seeking advice from legal luminaries.
He has better advisors.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Harish Salve. Thank you very much for speaking to me.